Geoffrey of Monmouth says it was the source of his material for his Historia Britonum. Geoffrey's history, in Latin prose, written some time about the middle of the 12th century, remains as the earliest definite record of the legends connected with King Arthur. Only a little later Geoffrey's Latin history was translated by Wace and others into Norman French, and here the Arthur material first appeared in verse form. Then, still later in the 12th century, Walter Map worked the same stories over into French prose, and at the same time put so much of his own knowledge and imagination with them that we may almost say that he was the maker of the Arthur romances. Soon after the year 1200, a half-century after Geoffrey of Monmouth first set our English ancestors to thinking about the legendary old hero of the times of the Anglo-Saxon conquest, Layamon, parish priest of Ernley in Worcestershire, gave to the English language, as distinct from the earlier Anglo-Saxon, his poem Brut. But this was a translation and enlargement of Wace's old French poem having Arthur as hero. So these stories of King Arthur, of Welsh or Celtic origin, came through the Latin, and then through French verse and prose, into our own speech, and so began their career down the centuries of our more modern history. After giving ideas to generation after generation of romance writers of many countries and in many languages, these same romantic stories were, in the 15th century, skilfully brought together into one connected prose narrative, one of the choicest of the older English classics, Le Morte d'Arthur, by Sir Thomas Malory. Those were troublous times when Sir Thomas, perhaps after having himself fought and suffered in the Wars of the Roses then in progress, found some quiet spot in Warwickshire in which to put together in lasting form the fine old stories that already in his day were classics. Malory finished his book in 1470, and its permanence for all time was assured 15 years later, when Caxton, after the simple cunning that God had sent him, to use the quaint forms of expression then common, under the favour and correction of all noble lords and gentlemen, emprised to imprint a book of the noble histories of the said King Arthur, and of certain of his knights, after a copy unto him was delivered, which copy Sir Thomas Malory did take out of certain books of French, and reduce it into English. This hard-headed businessman, this 15th century publisher, was rather doubtful about the Briton king of 1,000 years before his day, and to those urging upon him the venture of printing Malory's book he answered, "Divers men hold opinion that there was no such Arthur, and that all such books as been made of him been feigned and fables, by cause that some chronicles make of him no mention, ne remember him nothing, ne of his knights." But the arguments of those in favour of the undertaking prevailed, greatly to the advantage of the 4 centuries that have followed, during which Le Morte d'Arthur has been a constant source of poetic inspiration. Generation after generation of readers and of writers have drawn life from its chapters, and the new delights in Tennyson's Idylls of the King, almost of our own time, shows that the fountain has not yet been drained dry. Malory's Morte d'Arthur is a long book, and its really great interest is partly hidden from us by forms of expression that belong only to the time when it was first written. Besides this, the ideas of what was right and proper in conduct and speech, moral standards, were far lower in Malory's day than they are now. The purpose of this new little volume is to bring the old tales freshly to the attention of young people of the present time. It keeps, as far as may be, the exact language and the spirit of the original, chooses such stories as best represent the whole, and modifies these only in order to remove what could possibly hide the thought, or be so crude in taste and morals as to seem unworthy of the really high-minded author of 500 years ago. It aims also so to condense the book that, in this age of hurry, readers may not be repelled from the tales merely because of their length. Chivalry of just King Arthur's kind was given up long ago, but that for which it stood, human fellowship in noble purpose, is far older than the institution of knighthood, or than even the traditions of the energetic, brave, true, helpful King Arthur himself. It links us with all the past and all the future. The knights of the 20th century do not set out in chain armour to right the wrongs of the oppressed by force of arms, but by the best influences of chivalry have been preserved for the quickening of a broader and a nobler world than was ever in the dreams of the knight-errant of old. Modern heroes of the genuine type owe more than they know to those of Arthur's court who saw, to reverence the king as if he were their conscience, and their conscience as their king, to break the heathen and uphold the Christ, to ride abroad redressing human wrongs, to speak no slander, no, nor listen to it, to honour his own word as if his God's, to lead sweet lives in purest chastity, to love one maiden only, cleave to her, and worship her by years of noble deeds until they won her. Antiquity produces heroes, but not gentlemen, someone has said. In the days of Charlemagne and Alfred began the training which, continued in the days of Chaucer and Sir Thomas Malory and many, many more, has given to this our age that highest type of manhood, the Christian gentleman. U.W.C. End of introduction.